Hello and welcome to another episode of e-NV200 Adventures. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm sat on the drive, so I'm sure the neighbours will think I'm quite mad talking to myself in the car. Aircon on, quite a warm day. I do have a script down here and I will keep referencing it because I don't want this to overrun and become a 40-minute rant. I want it to be as concise as I can. I want to include as much data as I can to back up what I'm saying, but yes, here we go. We have recently returned. I'm going to grab the script now. Recently returned from our summer holidays to the continent, despite us having this car for over a year now. Last year we went to the US, so we didn't use it for our usual summer holidays, but so this is the first time that we're taking away on a proper holiday across to France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands and so on. So how did it go, Rich? You're asking yourselves. Pretty awful, pretty damn awful. And why was it that awful? Was it the places you visited? No, it was the car and Rapidgate. Now Rapidgate was a big problem to us on this trip. Now there were associated problems with European rapid charging network, but that's a side issue. The real issue that causes the biggest problems was restrictive charging, or Rapidgate as it's colloquially known. Now in this video I just want to talk about one particular trip. I think it highlights the how can we put it, the failings of the e-NV200, and those failings Rapidgate have brought us to a crossroads, if you like. Right now, faced with that really very fresh memory and the real tangible problem of Rapidgate, you know, we're in a position now where we feel that we've reached a dead end. Now if you speak to Nissan on this, Nissan's head office, they categorically deny that the 40 kilowatt e-NV200 has Rapidgate. So I don't know where you can go from there when we evidently have real problems, but the manufacturer say we don't. Then that to us is a dead end. No place for negotiation. We have a problem, real problem, we'll prove it. Nissan say you don't have a problem. So yes, this video is going to, rather than recount everything that we've been through, it's going to recount just one day's worth of travel. Now on this particular day, we'd been to Disneyland for many days. We'd bought season passes for the year, and there's a point at which you get a little bit bored with Disney. It's time to do something else to break up the fun. And that trip we decided to do was to go to a place called the Grotte d'Arcy. Now it literally means the caves of a place called Arcy. Now on this particular day, not trying to be funny, but we all felt pretty grotty, and by the end of the day we were all pretty arsey, that is for certain, and we will get to that. Now in our previous holidays to the continent, previous holidays to Disney, we'd been to the Grotte d'Arcy as a side trip, a day trip, and here again we wanted to do the same. The last time we were there the kids were small. Seth was a baby and Clara, our next youngest, she was a toddler, able to walk through these caves. But we thought right now, 7 and 9 years old, we can go back. They will get a whole new appreciation. They didn't even remember going, but so that's where we were. So how far was it? Well, from the house where we were staying near Disney, we were looking at 140 miles there, have the fun at the caves, and 140 miles back. Now the caves d'Arcy, or the Arcy caves, we've seen lots of caves over the years in this country and around Europe and various other places, but these caves are something special. They're probably the most spectacular caves you're ever going to see, that you can walk through without having to go down on ropes and so on. And they've also got prehistoric caveman paintings, so it really is something that, you know, you want to take your kids out for the day, give them an educational visit. It is something worth doing. Doable in a diesel car for sure. We knew the real possibilities of trouble doing it in the e-NV200. Nevertheless, you know, at the end of the day we decided, are we going to do it? And we said yes we are. We can't put our lives on hold because we own a Nissan EV, and off we set about. Now if you want to compare this to doing it in a diesel van, in our old diesel van, French motorway speed limit is 130 kilometers an hour, about 82 miles per hour or something. But you know, most people go faster than that, and ourselves, we'd have probably done 10% faster than the 130. Get us there a little bit quicker, and equally we shouldn't be able to get a French speeding ticket. So what I'm saying is, in the diesel van, it'll be 2 hours there, a couple of hours there having fun, 2 hours back. So anyway, like I say, we knew it would be more tricky than that in the e-NV, but we went ahead and did it. Right, realistically, this car has a real world range of 90 miles, possibly 100 miles on the motorway. Now, we can't get anywhere near the 130 kilometers an hour. The real world top speed of this car is 77 miles an hour. Now, you would be absolutely mad to try and drive it around at the top speed of the car, because your range would drop to, I don't know, 60 miles per hour. You'd end up with a very hot battery very quickly, have very, very severe Rapidgate right from the offset. So that isn't something that we've never chosen to do. I'm sure there are people that on Twitter perhaps that think that we plow around in this thing doing, you know, the top speed. That's not the reality. In France, we were sticking to indicated 100 kilometers, sorry, yeah, 100 kilometers an hour. So we're plodding around about 56 miles an hour. Now, where am I going? Let me get back to the script. So yeah, so realistically speaking, we've got to go slower than all the other traffic on the road. We're going slower than lorries, buses, whatever. That in itself is dangerous, but nevertheless, it's something that you've got to do. And if you follow us on Twitter, you'll know that a French bus almost took the front of the car off, only narrowly missing us. We had to swerve off onto the hard shoulder to prevent the car being totaled. Very real. One of these things that if you're going to plod along at 55, 56 miles an hour, a real thing that you're going to face is a bus overtaking you, a lorry overtaking you, just the reality of it. Anyway, like I say, we'd alluded already earlier that the French charging network is pretty poor, and the only charging option after leaving the house to go to these caves at 80 miles in was a charger in an obscure village pretty much in the middle of nowhere, about 5 miles off the auto route. Now you're faced with the real possibility that you get there and there's no charger there, because that has happened to us across in France. But nevertheless, and also you can't check whether this charger is online or whether it's working. But nevertheless, all of this is irrelevant, because we got there 80 miles in. I can throw that page away. 80 miles in, and we were happy to get a charge. So we plugged in. The car was down to 20%. We'd set off 100% from the house because we'd left it charging in the garage there overnight. The battery temperature, and I'll put all these things over in this space here. The battery temperature was 36.2. So we'd done everything we could to keep the battery temperature down by going slowly on the auto route. But already, and bearing in mind also that the temperature outside is much cooler than any other August we have ever been to France in. It was 21 degrees, so very cool outside for the time of year, usually 30 plus. But nevertheless, we are taking 30.5 kilowatts, which is evidently slower than the 50 kilowatts that Nissan like to tout as that this vehicle can take. So it's the first charge of the day. Not great, it's 30% slower than the real world fastest speed this car can take, which is about 45 kilowatts. But it is nevertheless much better than what we're going to face throughout the rest of the day. So we're taking this 30.5 kilowatts. It's a nice day, it's a nice village, and you'll see from the photos that I put up, we couldn't expect to be in a nicer place charging the car. We found a nearby park, we had a picnic, kids were happy, an hour playing around, eating, playing on the swings and slide, flies by, no problem. So yes, we got a charge that's longer than the touted 40 minutes, or the touted 40 minutes before Rapidgate became an issue and Nissan had to change their advertising. But nevertheless, just slightly over an hour was what we had. So all well and good, back in the car, off to the caves we went. We arrived at the caves at 1:30 p.m. We set off at 9:45 in the morning. It'd taken us 3 hours and 45 minutes to get from the house to the caves. Now listen, that's a bit longer than the 2 hours that we could have done it in the, well, I say a bit longer than the 2 hours we could have done it in a diesel. But nevertheless, we made it. We was happy to be there. We've not had any super duper stress up to now, and into the caves we went. This video is not about the caves. Let's just say we had fun, the kids enjoyed it, all the rest of it. Now it's time for us to get back in the e-NV and head back to the house up near Disneyland Paris. Now, we spent 90 minutes at the caves, just over, and the battery temperature in the car barely dropped. And that's the way it is. Because basically the car doesn't cool itself. It doesn't have some sort of thermal management that's keeping a check on the battery temperature and keeps it at an optimum level. No, of course not. This is a Nissan. It has a very half-hearted manner of cooling the battery, and it only cools it as and when you're charging. And even then, it's not really doing an awful lot. But we will get back to that later on in this video. But for now, so like I said, temperatures there, not overly hot. The last time we was at these caves, I remember it being 37 degrees, and we was such a delight to get into the caves, to get cooled off. But this time, no, a very, very, very mild 20 degrees outside. Like I said, the battery had lost barely none of its temperature, and we look for the nearest rapid charger. Well, it's in another village, large village, called Vermensen. We arrived there, again, much relief when we find that this thing is there for one. Two, it is actually working. We plug in, battery after the little drive there, the 5-mile drive from the cave, is at 24%. Battery temperature now is 42 degrees Celsius. That means we're now in the next layer of slower charging, so we're now taking 25 kilowatts. Now, knowing that we're going to be in for a long wait here, we walked to the nearest supermarket, grabbed ourselves some salads and sandwiches and whatever else for tea, came back, sat down and ate them. Weather pretty nice. Kids are having a bit of a run around on a bit of grass. So, you know, it is what it is. We would rather be in the car driving back, but we're not. We're having to rapid charge the car. One of the things that you accept when you're buying a car, an EV, we're going to be charging it. Let's please let no one think that I'm trying to pretend that we never thought we'd be charging. Of course we thought we'd be charging, but we thought we'd be charging for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and so on. But here we are. We've sat there. We've finished our tea. We look at the car. We're now over 1 hour worth of charging. Is the car anywhere near being finished charging? No, it's not. I do pull up on my phone on Google Maps a little map, and I'll put a screenshot here of how far we've got to go to get us back to the house. It's 130 miles. We've been sat there now for over an hour, and that 130 miles may as well be 1,000 miles because it just seems so far away. What we did do was that because of the whole issue of finding chargers in France that are working, we decided to charge it longer than the 80% that you would usually go to. What it meant is we took it up right up to 89%, and the total charge time to get us from 24% to 89% took us 1 hour and 14 minutes. Now, that is what it is, you could say. But nevertheless, it is much longer than a 40-minute charge that we anticipated having when we bought the vehicle. Anyway, we ploughed on now, so we're going from Vermensen up towards Disneyland Paris. As we're plodding along the motorway, the weather takes a turn for the worst, and we found the only Sodatel, which is the French charging network charger, that it was the last one before we was due to get back, about 50 miles from the house. So we got on this. Luckily it was working. We had issues with other Sodatel ones. Luckily it was working. Absolutely throwing it down. Thunder, lightning, and getting out of the car to plug it in was, yeah, I got soaked. Nevertheless, we had, by this point we were down to 8%. We'd had a low battery warning. Put these things up here perhaps, and the rain coming off the windscreen. And what we're doing now is we're trying to estimate how far what percentage do we need to put in the battery to get us back this last 50 miles? Well, I think realistically, you know, because of things that can go wrong, we decided to put in up to 60%. So we need to go from 8% to 60%. Now, say for argument's sake, we were going on somewhere further away than just 50 miles, then we want to get to 80%. Now, how long is it going to take us to get from this 8% to 80%? Well, I'll tell you, I did the calculations at the time. It would have taken 1 hour and 43 minutes to get to 80%. That's just absolutely ridiculous. When we've been sold a car on the idea that we can do a 40-minute charge, that a 1 hour on top of that, 1 hour 43, is just, I'm laughing now because it seems absolutely ridiculous, but when I was sat there in that thunder and lightning, in that rain, looking at a 1 3/4 hour charge, I was utterly despondent. Now I tell you what, sat at the side of me was Sharon. The kids were playing up. Why wouldn't they play up? They've been sat in a car for what seems like for them for absolutely forever. Sharon got out the car, walked off into the storm. I was wondering, is she ever going to come back? Is she going to put the life behind her of the e-NV200 and myself and the kids? Anyway, I plugged in and I'm facing this ridiculous 75-minute charge just to get us to 60%. Now, as I sat there 40 minutes in, I looked at the battery temperature. Well, I'd kept it on the whole time on the screen, and I realised in this last week and a half I'd produced a little chart, temperature versus rapid charge rate, and I realised that at this particular point, oh sorry, the one thing that I do need to mention, the critical thing here, and I have messed up because I've gone off script, is that when we plugged in, we were taking 17 kilowatts. 17 kilowatts. It's a rapid charge. It's not much better. This is the key thing here. This is why we're looking at 1 hour 45 to get us to 80%, because we're taking 17 kilowatts. I must apologise. I should stick to the script, but I haven't. But there we are. So 17 kilowatts. This car is designed to take 17 kilowatts when the battery reaches 49 Celsius. Now, on this particular day, you could say this is one, you don't have to say it, but this is our third rapid of the day. The car has not done an awful lot today in this particular day, and if the temperature was hotter, if it had been 35 degrees outside ambient temperature, I am pretty convinced that 17 kilowatts would have been feasible on a second rapid charge. But that aside, all bollocks, because I don't have the data to prove it. So there we go. I am sat, I've looked at this battery temperature, 40 minutes into the charge, been taking 17 kilowatts the whole time. I look at my chart that I've been making on this holiday, chart's probably up there somewhere, and I've realised that now if I plug in, that we should get an increased charge rate. And sure enough, I unplugged it in the rain, absolutely getting drenched once again, plugged it back in, bingo, we're taking 25 kilowatts now. So what does that mean in the real world? What did I achieve by that apart from getting drenched for the second time? Well, the predicted 75 minutes to the 60%, I cut that to just over an hour. But who else is going to mess around like that? Who else indeed? 15 minutes saved, I tell you, when you're absolutely fed up, that 15 minutes, it's worth messing around to do it. But should you have to do that? No. You shouldn't. We shouldn't be even in a situation where we're charging for over an hour and 15, 1 hour 45 to get us to 80%. It's sheer madness. So anyway, nevertheless, we got to 60%, got back in the car, set off on that final leg back to the house. 7:25 p.m. we got in, absolutely all of us totally fed up, totally just absolutely sick of the day because of this car. Now if you want to flip this over and look at a comparison, if we'd have been doing the journey in a normal car, well, we'd have set off at 9:45, 2 hours to the caves, 90 minutes in the caves, another 2 hours to get us back to the house. That would mean on a day trip, a fun family day trip to the caves, we'd have been back home to the house 3:15 p.m. Here we are, almost 7:30 in the evening because of Rapidgate. It's not because we drive an EV, because the car would still need charging, but we thought we bought this car on the premise that was going to be doing 40-minute charges, not 75, 90-minute charges. So there we are. Slow speeds on the motorway, which you've got to go slower. You can't go, you can't even reach whatever the speed limit is there, 130 kilometers an hour. But so you've got your slow speeds, you've got the Rapidgate. So basically what we're ending up with is a vehicle that is not fit for purpose. It cannot do the things we want to do on holiday. So where are we right now? Well, the final thoughts on this, well, here we go. It's all too evident after this holiday that Rapidgate just makes longish, and they're not long journeys, 200 miles, 140 miles, these are not long journeys, but it makes them totally impractical. You can't go out on 130 there, 130 back in the same day and not avoid Rapidgate. It took us 2 days to get from Hull to Eurotunnel, which is preposterous. We should be able to do that in a day, but nevertheless, that's the way it was. We had to break it up over 2 days. It took us close to 9 hours to get from Hull to Dartford because of Rapidgate. Again, 17 kilowatt charges on that leg of that journey. It is woefully inadequate. It cannot do what we want it to do. Now, you throw in a European charging network into the mix, and I tell you what, the type of holidays that we do on the continent just are not practical. Fresh off the ferry and still annoyed and aggravated by the journey, I rang Nissan and I smiled slightly at the managing director's office. Come on, let's be honest, it's just a customer service office. I spoke to a chap called Sanjat, I believe, apologies for my pronunciation, and he categorically, after I told him everything, he categorically denied that the e-NV200 has Rapidgate. He even took the time to talk to me like a child, pretending that somehow or other he was differentiating the problems with the Leaf 40 and the 40 kilowatt e-NV200, explaining that they are totally different, that we do not have Rapidgate. Now, I'll tell you what, I put that phone down somewhat perturbed. Now, when you're faced with a set of barefaced lies to deny a problem from such a big car manufacturer, then you're at the end of the road, pardon the pun, because at the end of the day, how can you argue, well, not even argue, how can you have a rational conversation with somebody who's denying that something that is very real doesn't exist? So we need a vehicle that can do work trips, you know, day-to-day stuff, but equally we need it to do the important fun things in life like holidays, and the e-NV200 isn't fit for purpose. You know, a charge time close to 2 hours is just absolute craziness. So what next? Well, we've looked at it and we've put a lot of thought into it, and we've decided that going back to a diesel car is the only real option here. Now, there are no other 7-seat EVs. Forget a Tesla Model X or what have you. We don't have a spare 60, 70, 80 grand to spare. And there are not even a 7-seat FEV on the market right now. So looking at that, it looks like we've got to go back to a diesel van. Now, as a final attempt at finding and placing us on that direction, where do we go next? The car is booked in for tests next Thursday the 5th of September. We want to make sure that there isn't some fault with the vehicle, because then we would be in the wrong. So there we go. Nissan have got it in. They are testing it. They're talking to Nissan Technical. They're going to ask them to pull various data from the car's computer, check whatever. But I tell you one thing, if they come back to us and say there's nothing wrong with it, that it's working as designed, then I tell you what, I don't care what you want to call it, Rapidgate, restrictive charge rates, working as designed, however you want to categorize what is happening with this car on a longer trip, a 60-minute, 70-minute, 100-minute rapid charge, that is the reality of the situation here. So deny it as much as you want, but that is the reality. Now, so look, if there's some mystery fault that I don't believe there is, but if there is, then let's look at it. But if there isn't, if there's nothing wrong with this vehicle, then we're starting proceedings to get this car returned under the premise that this is an inherent fault, because as part of its design, it is an inherent fault. No two ways about it. And I think, I'm not going to go down that way, but I tell you what, I think the people that matter The people that matter in this country to ensure that justice is done, I think to the people that matter, they would agree with us that this is an inherent flaw in the design that makes this car not fit for purpose for all types of journeys. Now, just let's remember one final thought on this, that when in the 2 years we were looking at buying this, restrictive charging wasn't an issue on the 24 kilowatt version of the e-NV200, the 24 kilowatt version. So that's what we based it on. We knew that car, maybe 20-30 minute charge, and we you know, prorated it and thought, well, we'll end up with 30 or 40 minute charges. At that point, Nissan had released no publicity really about it, just a bullet point thing. We did ring Nissan, ask them, is there any differences between the new one and the old one? And they said there is an updated infotainment system, there is a bigger battery, but other than that, it is exactly the same. It's not exactly the same because the original version didn't have Rapidgate. So there we go. Nissan continued to deny that there's a problem, and that's just rubbing salt into the wounds, frankly. It's just an insult. So there we go. They say there's no problem. We know there is a problem. You can see from this video, from these facts. We're not making this up. We're not going to, you know, deliberately put the kids through some arduous multiple day journey and pretend that there's a problem when there isn't, because that would be the definition of madness. We are not mad. It seems that Nissan are acting as if they are mad, schizophrenic. There's a problem, let's pretend there isn't a problem. There's a problem with the Leaf. Yeah, no, that's not really a problem, but we will fix it. Will you fix the e-NV200? No, we won't fix it because there's not a problem. Right, so that's where we are with it. We'll see where we go next week, see what results they find, but for now, that's all I've got to say. Thanks for watching. All the very best. Bye for now.